in the new year. Happy New Year, everyone. I've not been doing a great deal lately because I've been out visiting the family, going to the pub, all the usual things really. So as a result, I've got bugger all painting done. So just to fill the gap, just to tell you I ain't dead, I'll tell you what I'll be doing in the coming year. I'll start with this. With my new project for next year, the new big project. It's this! Rampant, the medieval skirmish game from Osprey. I say skirmish, it's not like individual figures. I mean, it's typically, your figure count is 40 to 60 per army. There are outliers, there's someone who's 72 and there's someone who's 24, but it's typically 40 to 60, depending on the era, depending on how many mounted troops you are, depending on just who you are, whether you're elite, whether you're a horde of the Great Unwashed. And it's very, very simple. So there's just sort of little archetypes that I think it actually calls them stereotypes of troops. So you've got your mounted knights that want to charge everything. You've got your archers that are unwilling to get into combat and are crap at it when they do. And there's just a nice activation system. So the author puts it that it rewards historical tactics. So, for example, mounted knights, if you don't want them to, if they're in charge range of somebody, they will charge unless you restrain them. And things like, and other than that, you're doing a 2d6, I think it's a 2d6 roll to activate somebody. So, for example, for a unit of archers, you've got a low roll to make them shoot because that's what they're comfortable with, that's what they're there for, and a higher roll to make them charge into combat because they ain't keen on charging into combat. And that's kind of nice. So it makes you use your archers as archers, it makes you use your billmen as billmen, it makes you use your knights as knights, etc., etc. Another thing is that if anyone remembers Blood Bowl, where you sort of, any sort of failed dice roll ends your turn. Well, a failed activation ends your turn as well. So if you want to do something a bit weird, you're probably better off getting your more reliable stuff, getting your archers to shoot, getting your combat troops to charge, that sort of thing. Get it out of the way early. If you've got something weird to do, you do it at the end of your turn. It's like a nice little extra bit of thinking you've got to do with it. As I say, it's a simple game. There's probably not even a dozen troop types, and it is like archers, mounted knights, foot knights, all these sorts of things, and they're either a unit of 6 or a unit of 12. Again, it's really simple. Now they're saying it's for individual figures. I think I'll be doing individually based figures, but with movement trays. And then I can sort of base them differently if I want to expand these medieval armies into something larger like Hail Caesar or other game systems. Now, the medieval period is a large one, a good 500 years-ish. So what am I going for then? Well, yeah, it's this. Wars of the Roses. It's something as a Lancastrian, it's something, a period of history that really interests me. Now I'm very aware that the factions, the Lancastrian, the House of Lancaster and the House of York have really got sod all to do with the modern counties of Lancashire and Yorkshire, and it's got sod all to do with what I might shout at Yorkshire fans if I'm watching the cricket up at Old Trafford or anything like that. It's absolutely nothing to do with it. So I'm categorically not turning 2015 into the year of the Lancastrian willy waving, and to really set my stall out with that. More specifically than the York Wars of the Roses, I'm going to be focusing on, yes, a Lancastrian defeat town. Now this is really, it's not, it's a mass battle. It's not great. It's not a great topic for a skirmish game, because there was tens of thousands of troops, and I'm gonna initially be collecting the Lion Rampant late medieval English list, which I think is 36 if I'm right. No, it's not, it's 42. So 42 figures aside to represent Britain's bloodiest battle. It's not really going to fly, but I'm just using it as a basis for, I will collect a Lancastrian army and a Yorkist army from this campaign. So specifically I'm going for, because of where I live, I'm going to go for Warwick. And this is a little silly, but because his uniform is blue and white, I'm going for Somerset for the Lancastrians. Yep, having said it's not a Lancastrian willy waving exercise, I'm still going for the Lancastrian force that looks like my football club. It's slightly predictable, I don't care. So I've been going for, okay, so I've decided it's Warwick and Somerset. Let's have a look at the figures, and I think anyone who knows medieval warfare in the last few years will expect to see one of these. So this is the Perry's Wars of the Roses box. This is 40 figures. 40 figures of, I think it's 36 that are unarmoured, and then a few more command. 4 command, which isn't quite enough to make the unit Footnotes. Basically, the Lion Rampant list for this era is 2 dozen archers, a dozen sort of pike billmen, and then 6 Footnotes, and then the Footnotes goes your leader. So with the armoured command, what I probably could have done was just get a few metal figures and bolster them that way. But I did sort of go the whole hog and get the box of Footnotes. Really, just because these look absolutely fantastic. And this is 38 figures now. For both armies, I'll need a dozen of these. And actually, I'm probably will sort of get some metal command figures. You know, I don't imagine that. I don't know, I'll have a look for some metal figures anyway, but for the initial part of this project, really, one of these boxes will do me the majority of a Lancastrian force, and another box will do me an identical majority of the Yorkist force, and then between them the Footnotes will provide the unit of Footnotes each. Now that's a bit weird. Yeah, it's going to be 2 identical armies, a lot of archers. Whether this turns into an interesting battle or not, I'm not entirely sure, but at least it'll give me a basis. You know, I think the late English thing, the 2 lots of archers, the billmen, it's maybe a good list for Agincourt, but forces in the campaigns of the Wars of the Roses are a lot more random. So you've got crossbowmen from Burgundy and Scottish pike in another, and all that sort of thing. But this gives me this method gives me a starting point. So that's a plan to paint 84 figures. By the time I've put in other stuff, I mean, there's another baggage scenario, so there's bound to be some sort of like idiot vegetable thing going on as well. And for those of you that fans of the cabbage wagon, which is another thing I need to finish this year, it'll probably end up being around 100 figures before I start to look at introducing new units and maybe some mounted troops. I think there's a light cavalry box due at some point from the Perrys, which will be that'll add a bit more variety to it as well. The other thing I'd like to do with Lion Rampant is a Seljuk Turk army. Now there's some gorgeous Seljuk Turk metal figures on the Perry's site, and coincidentally getting the figures for a Lion Rampant Seljuk Turk army would also almost exactly be a decent starting point for a Crescent and Cross Saracen army as well. So there's all these sort of crossover things. It's just nice to have those options. You can just collect the miniatures for a period, use them with a rule set. If another rule set comes along, you can use them with those as well. So that's the big plan for this year, and it comes with my promise that it won't be a Lancastrian willy waving thing. Remember, battle it out and Lancastrian defeat. It does also mean if I want to do anything later in the Wars of the Roses, then Warwick can fight for me because he switched sides. And Warwick can fight for the House of Lancaster. Let's make this not personal. There you go. Wars of the Roses. Thanks for watching. Other than that, there's just finishing off the stuff that I've got started. So there's the Saga army, at least stage 1 to finish. Stage 2 will be add some cavalry to it, and there's also expanding it into the other Celtic nations for that period. So I need a few models to make an Irish army out of it, a Scots army, all that sort of stuff. Bolt action needs expanding, not massively, a few tanks to finish. I'd like another squad of infantry. I'd like to move into airborne. Whether anything that gets done, I don't know. And the other one is 40k. I was a bit surprised at this, but I've always sort of liked the story of it. I had 40k when it first came out, Road Trader, all of that. Looking down there, I don't possess it anymore. With a lot of the stuff that I used to have in those days, stuff that's worth a freaking fortune. A lot of it went in the bin when I moved house several times. But yeah, 40k. I really wasn't expecting that, but I saw a video that Andy2D6 did, and without doing spoilers, Andy had his arse handed to him basically, but he just had a great laugh with it. They were handing out Ferrero Rocher. That's not really my thing, but it's just that opportunity to sort of make it a muckabout game, in what's quite a vile setting, but it's still an enjoyable afternoon with your mates. So 40k. Yeah, I've no schedule for this. I mean, the first priorities are Saga and at least get a good chunk of medieval stuff done. But yeah, there'll be some 40k coming. As surprised as you are, but yeah, thanks Andy2D6. That's another set of miniatures I'm buying. Thanks, mate. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling on. Thanks for watching. I will speak to you soon. Ta-ra.